Hey y'all, welcome back to Housing Houston. I am your co-host, Kayla Ewald.
And I'm Sarah Lerner with Real Vest Property Management. We are so excited you're here today.
And we have a special guest who is also known as Jennifer Morton, a celebrity in the social media world.
The famous viral influencer, estate planner, probate lady.
If you are not following her videos, you need to ASAP. So we'll make sure that we put the link to her Instagram and all her other social media handles because you do not want to miss what she has been putting out. So Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, just recovering from the holiday weekend.
Thank you for taking time to chat with us because we've been so excited to have you here today. We want to know all the things. We've had you on before.
Yes.
And so we've gotten like some really good tidbits, but I feel like things are always changing and there's always more to talk about.
Yeah, so Jennifer does estate and probate planning. Probate and estate planning is the official way to say it. Why don't you just introduce yourself again? We know we've had you on before, but tell us what you do in regards to that and what led you to doing that in your life.
Okay. So my firm focuses mostly on estate planning and probate. I really like this area of law because I get to meet a lot of different people and I also get to help them. So I can see the consequences of not proper planning on one side, and then I can use that information to help other people avoid those issues in the future.
How long have you been doing this side of law?
So I've been doing estate planning and probate since 2019, and my firm has been open since 2020.
Okay. And you are the owner?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the owner and the sole attorney.
And what law did you practice before probate and estate planning?
So originally I went to law school to do intellectual property because I have an engineering degree and I wanted to do patent law. Well, I quickly realized that was not what
enough.
Right. It was not at all what I expected. And I also wanted to work for myself. And I didn't find that area of law was one where I could work solo, because so I decided to do estate planning because, it's something that I can do alone. Everyone is a potential client, right?
Everyone needs it.
Yes, everyone.
Everyone will die.
Yes, everyone needs it, and so I just felt like it fit my lifestyle, the lifestyle I was looking for. So, and I love it.
So I feel like, especially in our area, Pearland, when somebody's asking, who do you know, who's an attorney, like you are the go-to attorney here locally. Like I feel, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but yes. So 2019, 2020, how do you feel like your business, has it grown as exponentially or?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good.
So my very first year in 2019, I had 6 clients and they were all friends that let me take.
You got to start somewhere.
That let me take a chance on them. Then I worked for another attorney for a few years on contract. Okay. And then when I officially opened my firm in 2022, it started slow, but people told me this would happen, a snowball effect, where the more people that use your services and are happy, and you just get referrals, and it keeps growing. But yeah, we've grown. So at first it was just me working all by myself, and it was not a problem at all. And now I have a full-time paralegal and an almost full-time legal assistant.
I love that.
So
yeah, congratulations.
Yeah,
it's kind of like in real estate when people get their real estate license and the first house they sell is their own.
Oh,
right. So when you say I had 6 clients and they were all my friends, I kind of feel like everyone has to start there.
Yeah.
Yes.
You start there and then you snowball effect, and year over year it gets better.
Yeah, you just gotta take the chance.
Good.
Well, good. Well, so I wanted to ask you, because we were giving you a hard time about it at the start, you had this amazing viral moment. Tell us about it.
So I was a guest at a estate planning seminar put on by a financial planner, and I was just, my social media person, Mariella, was there with she was just recording content, for my social media page, my Instagram, because I'm not doing that by myself. So I have to have somebody do it for me. And I don't even know if it was in response to a question or if I was just talking to talk. I don't know, but I was talking about wills and the validity of wills in Texas. And just for some unknown reason, that video just took off and my followers exploded overnight. And it was wild because it's just something that I don't consider that
content.
Yes,
like
no.
something to go viral.
Right. And I was just sitting in a coffee shop chatting and talking and
But I think it like shows how much people want information.
Yeah.
It's like quality.
Yeah.
And organic.
And
to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you weren't asking for it. You were just there being yourself, answering questions, and then it goes viral.
Yeah.
You were being authentic
Yeah.
about it.
It
That's
was
crazy. Do you know how many
wild.
followers you have?
last I checked, it was 17,000.
Hey!
26,000.
26,000. So you haven't, okay, so
That's
she has not
Instagram. And so
That's a big jump from the last time you looked at your followers. 17,000
yes,
to 20.
I mean, yes. So my husband makes fun of me and says I'm an influencer now.
He
So
loves it. He
it's funny.
loves
Yeah,
celebrating
it's fun. It's fun.
Oh my gosh. So speaking of like useful information, I want to pivot a little bit,
Okay.
right? Are we
Yeah,
ready for that?
we're
Okay.
ready.
So tell us some useful information.
Yeah, and with that, like, it's late summer. We're having the
Yes.
summer reality check.
Yeah.
Like, what going into the school year, going into the fall? Is there any things
Yes.
on people's to-do
The
list?
year
that
is
they-
Yes.
flying by.
I can't believe summer's already halfway
What
over.
are we supposed to be
insane.
doing? Yes.
So I would say to parents, especially who have children going off to college, before they leave, be sure you have medical powers of attorney in place and statutory durable powers of attorney.
Oh, wow.
Because if they're 18, they're a legal adult. And just because you're their
scare me like
parent, right? Just because you're their parent doesn't mean you can access their medical records and make decisions for them automatically. And there may be situations where you need to handle their finances or assets.
So tell us a little bit about medical powers of attorney and the other one that you mentioned.
Yeah, statutory
Which one?
durable.
Okay.
So the medical power of attorney, that's the person who can make medical decisions for you if you're unable to,
Okay.
if you're incapacitated for whatever reasons. The person who can consent on your behalf to medical treatment.
So you have a teenager going off to college. Most likely, they're not married. They're not, just usually they're on their
kid.
own.
They're
A
a kid.
kid. They're on their own, and they're going to rely on
Mom and dad.
mom and dad or somebody of that
Yeah.
sense, and they need to fill out that form.
And if they don't, like, what happens?
Well, somebody has to make a decision. So instead of the person you
Maybe would want to.
correct, you would want to, it's just, in the moment the doctor would they would either make a decision themselves or they would have to.
Or like I've seen divorced parents and like they're not agreeing.
Right.
And kid is
Right.
kind of stuck
Yes.
in the middle. So you would want to know.
Yes,
this
so
is
it's
what I
best to
want.
just name, I want mom or I want dad or this person.
So what's the other one besides medical? Why can I not remember it
Durable.
or pronounce
Statutory
it?
durable power of attorney.
So what is that?
So that is your agent for financial purposes. So that
Okay.
is the person who can sign to sell your car. So if
Could
you're
we not just call it financial power of attorney?
you can
Like, why do we
and
have to have
so
Statutory durable is just
like
Well,
never
well,
gonna be able to
because
say
it's
that.
durable as opposed to springing power of attorney, which is a different.
Okay.
It's the same thing, but it's a different type. Yeah.
Okay. So you have medical, you have finance.
Yes. So when I talk to clients in intro conversations, I typically say financial just because it's easier and it makes more sense. But that's the person who can sign your tax return. They can sell your car for you. They can, sell your house. They can talk if you have a bank account in your name only at Chase, they can call Chase Bank and talk to them about your account
Okay.
for whenever you need that to happen.
So right now, kids are going off to college. Those are two that
Yeah.
really are needed to get with you and
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. So
Do they have to have a specific package to be able to do those two, or can they just do those two?
they can just do those. Typically, I include a medical power of attorney and a HIPAA authorization, and then the statutory durable power of attorney. So those three documents. But I do recommend that if somebody's going to college in another state, that they also have a durable power of attorney, financial power of attorney done in that state as well.
Okay.
Oh, that's great advice.
Yeah, that is.
You don't think about needing.
Yeah.
Anything else you can think of right now in this time frame?
So kids are going back to school.
Okay.
now you have time to meet with me.
Hey, that's actually
Yes. Yes.
You've been putting it off. Your
Right.
kids are gone now.
Yes. So
Set up a
now all
consultation.
you have to do is deal with work. You don't have to deal with work and what to do with your kids. Although kids are welcome in my office. People bring kids, to meetings, but I know people don't always love bringing their kids with us. So now that that's done, parents, I feel like the start of school is more of a new year than January 1st.
Oh, 100%.
So I'll set my resolutions for the school year. So do it
That's
before.
great.
And so that way we can get everything done before the holiday crazies.
So besides the kids being maybe a main reason that people put it off because they're trying to balance everything and survive the summer months, raise your hand if that's you. What are some other common reasons that people put off any of the documentation that you provide?
So a big one that I hear is people, especially older people, don't like talking about it. They don't like thinking about it. So that's an issue that I have with adult children and their elderly parents. They know that their parent needs to get something in place, but the elderly parent either doesn't want to, just thinks everything's going to be fine, or just they don't want to face that. They don't want to talk about it. And that's a hard conversation to have, and I understand that. But I think it's easier for people. What I've seen is it's easier for, as people age, usually when they're in the 50s, 60s age group, it's easier for them to, because they know they're getting older, but they're not facing it. Doesn't feel
not
imminent. Right. So it's better to, get it done as soon as you can, because also once your mental capacity goes, then you're not able to execute these documents,
many
and
other things that have to
it can cause a problem.
So I have some questions about that and real estate.
Okay.
So let's say like an investor who has multiple properties passes away and doesn't have a plan.
Okay.
What are we looking at? Like, what's the situation there? I mean, especially because that's usually someone else's home. Like, a tenant resides in this home, and now it's in probate. Like, what do we do?
Yeah. So in those situations, if somebody has multiple pieces of, so first off, real estate, if you don't have any kind of will or estate planning, where it goes after you die depends on, is it community or separate property? It also depends on your family situation. Do you have children from outside the marriage? Are you married? So it could be going to minor children if you're not careful. And then you have to do what's called a dependent administration through the court and get them put into trust for kids. And it can be a mess. But even if it's easy, and it's given to your spouse, you still have to deal with all of those different properties. You have to, issue deeds for all of those properties. And so if there's a tenant in the property, they can stay, so the lessor is the executor of the estate. And so if there's so you need to get the administrator or executor of the estate set before it's passed to whoever it's supposed to go to. So you can either have nothing and then it's a real hot mess. You can have a will, which is better than nothing.
Okay.
But you still have to wait for the probate process to go through.
Talk to us about the probate process.
Okay.
Because I hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so probate is the process of the court essentially giving a check mark to the will. So you write a will, it says everything goes to, my kids. Great. That will has zero legal effect until it is admitted by the court. So the probate process is, like, oh, my loved one died, here's a will, court. And the court has to look at the will, take testimony, be sure it's an actual valid will. Then it is admitted to probate, which means it is now a legally binding document, and the executor has to then distribute the assets accordingly. And the probate process is also, so there's that, and then also the executor or administrator of the estate is named by the court. So they get a special piece of paper that says, I'm executor of the estate, and then you're now the representative and can do whatever needs to be done to settle the estate. So in theory, it's simple and quick. However, there are many moving parts. There are courts involved, and you have to set a hearing. And when the hearing happens, often has to, it can depend on your availability, the attorney's availability, and the court's availability. So it can be a while.
So how do you guarantee that your wishes if I do a will and I write, this is what I want, I'm going to use a specific example.
Okay,
Please
do.
Okay.
Because I have a question
Okay,
after she
all right.
has a question.
So, person
Okay.
did not have children,
Okay.
has some property,
Okay.
has a nephew that's in their 50s that lives in another state, would probably be the only heir that we know about. Person wants to leave her property to someone totally...
John Smith.
No relation, nothing. Just, I want to give this to you when I die.
Yeah.
It's in the will. Is that going to get approved? Like, is the court going to
Over
look
the
at that
nephew?
and go, whoa,
So-
person, how do I know you didn't?
Yeah. So the person who has the will, anyone can offer the will for probate. So it would be that the person who's receiving the property presumably would offer it for probate. And the court, all they have to go on is the document and oral testimony as to whether it's valid or not. Now, nephew could say, wait a second, during the probate process before the court has approved it, the nephew could say, oh, wait a second, this will is not
interest.
valid.
Okay.
Because either person was, either that's fake, it's not her signature, or she was under undue duress. Somebody was holding a gun to her head and said, sign this. Or, not literally, but,
Right.
But yes.
or she didn't have mental capacity. She didn't know what she was doing. And so, but then they have to prove that.
Okay.
And so then
they can
that's
come
when
in
you
and
enter.
say these things, but then
Then it goes into a will contest, and that's when you enter litigation, and it can be a mess.
Okay, that sounds like a mess.
Yeah, it can
How
be.
do you avoid going through that mess?
So one way for sure is to have an attorney draft your will,
Okay.
because if it's drafted in an attorney's office, there can be a higher chance of being able to prove that it's valid as opposed to something that you just scratched on a...
Is that
Yeah.
On a
because the
page.
attorney is an agent of the court? Or
No,
why?
it's because the attorney's a fact witness. They were there, they drafted the document, they were there, they were present. Whenever somebody comes into my office, I have to be sure, if somebody's coming in with adult parent and says she needs to redo her will, everything goes to me. I'm like, okay, that's great, but I need to talk to your parent by themselves. So I kind of have to assess, does this parent, do they know what they're doing?
Okay.
Do they?
So the attorney then might get called into the court.
Yes,
and,
yeah, if
like
you're
you said,
drafting
being a
attorney.
fact witness and say, actually, this will is valid to John Smith.
Yeah.
Because I was there. Nephew,
Yeah.
no, they did not want you a part of it.
Yeah, and then you have your notes, and somebody will come in and say, I don't want my son to get anything because, and they'll tell me the whole story of what son did.
Oh, I bet.
And that's great. I write it all down.
And then next month they're back in there saying, add him back to the will. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't just be taking people in and out of your will.
So
She charges hourly. Actually,
True story.
Absolutely
True story.
So
True story.
if son comes in and tries to say she didn't know what she was doing,
You can
I have a
say.
whole story that she told me. Now, whether that story is true or not, I don't know, but that,
Yeah, my question is, you have this will, let's use person to John Smith. How do you know that was the last standing, or I don't know how else to say it, last will
Last
that was
will and
done?
testament,
right,
Yeah.
because it's presumed that if you have a new will, then all old wills are revoked.
But how do you know?
So
which
you
one's
have to
the
be
newest?
sure whichever one's the newest is the one that is the will. So you can have a will that was dated in 2025. You're like, this is the will, this is the newest will. But then someone else has a will dated in 2019 that actually gives everything to that person. They can then come and say, oh, wait, no, it's a similar situation, a will contest. Not only is that will not valid, but this is the right one.
You would think that the last will, and this is me thinking out loud, should be filed. Like, you would think wills
Yeah,
should be filed.
they're not.
Because
Nope.
then you can just pull the last recorded
Yeah,
will and
no.
go from there, because it is such a precious piece
It is.
of information.
Yes, and so I recommend to my clients whenever they come in and get new wills done to shred all the old ones. So there's not
A paper trail that
there's not an
reappears.
old one that somebody can pull out from the 70s and say, wait, no, this is because if this most recent will is not valid for whatever reason, then the second most recent will is that one, assuming that one's valid. So it is a very important document. You keep it safe in your house. You don't file it with the court. Courts don't like that. Courts don't care. It's a very old way of doing things.
Yeah.
And I've heard of wills getting lost by the courts.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Even like I can barely keep up with my car keys.
Yeah.
So do you find the owner of the will just does keep it in their house?
Yes.
Or I could go down a whole rabbit hole on this. I'm so sorry. But
Yeah.
do they?
Yeah. What's a good?
Do they
what
give?
do you recommend?
If you're in the will,
So,
hey person, I'm
yes.
gonna give you this,
Here's a
and
copy.
nephew, I'm gonna give you this as the like what?
Or
Yeah.
dear
And then they're
nephew,
like, I'm
I
only
took you out
getting
of my
this.
will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please be advised.
Yes.
Love Aunt Susie.
FYI.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You
So,
You got until
See
you're
you
back in my good
Christmas.
graces.
yeah. So in my office, and I think this is pretty standard, is the client will go home with all of their original documents, and we keep scanned copies. We don't keep any originals. So if the originals are damaged or lost, we do have copies. You can probate a copy of a will. It's not ideal because there are other things you have to do. But I recommend people keep their binder in a safe, fireproof, waterproof, preferably if possible, and then give a copy to whoever your executor is. Give them either a hard copy
Make
or
sure they
email
have the code
copy
to the safe.
and the code to the safe. Correct. Do not put it in a safety deposit box.
Oh.
Do
why?
not, because if you're the only one on the safety deposit box and you die, you have to get a court order to open the safety deposit box.
Stop.
So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it just adds to the timeline. So
I need to go to the bank after this.
I have to make sure there's two people on that.
Exactly.
yeah.
That's awesome. I learned something new.
I could go down a rabbit hole.
Would
which
you want
is-
to, or do you
No,
want to?
let's move along
Okay.
to other important information. This is not my consultation. Kayla Ewald. Right? I mean,
As a matter of fact, no. Let's stay talking about real estate investors.
Yes.
So I get
Okay.
yes,
so it's
that's
my
true.
consultation.
That's true. That's true.
There we go.
We'll split.
So, what are some of the biggest headaches you see, or like things that go wrong with investors specifically? Because we see a lot of people, they'll like put it in the property name or an LLC name, or you know what. So, what are some
a lot of
common?
people put it in trust, and I'm
Yes.
like, do I need to put my property in a trust?
Even their home. I've seen their home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I was
Yeah,
referring
yeah.
to. Not so much the
All of
other
it.
properties,
Yeah.
but yeah, do we need to be putting?
Yeah, so I typically recommend when people come in and they have multiple properties that they're renting out, to put those into an LLC
Okay.
because you need that liability coverage, right?
Right.
And what the exact structure of that LLC is, whether we do a series or whatever, that's all very fact specific. But then the LLC interest is then assigned to a trust. So what happens?
Upon death.
No, you
Or
assign it to the
alive.
trust during your life.
Okay.
But then, so if something happens to you, the managing member of the LLC, then the trustee can then step in and manage the assets while they're getting settled after your death. So with a trust, I like to explain a trust as a bucket. I'm going to put this down because I have to use my hands.
Okay.
We know.
Yeah.
Do you want a whiteboard?
No.
Actually, I love when you do.
I-
I love when you get a
You
whiteboard
can't
in
even
your
read
hands.
my handwriting.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
I'm crazy.
You're
So a
very-
trust is a bucket.
Okay.
So it's a bucket that holds assets. That's the best way I can describe it. So you make the bucket by drawing up the trust, which is a contract essentially between it's a contract. So it's a bucket, and you can put those assets in your bucket during your lifetime, or you can name the bucket the beneficiary of your assets, of your accounts. So when you die, either there are assets inside the bucket already, or these other assets then pay into the bucket.
They go to the bucket when you die.
Yes. So now you've got the bucket, and then the contract, the trust document says what happens to all those assets within the bucket after you die. Okay. So especially if you have minor children, that's a big one. I recommend that because then there's a trust for the children within the trust, and it just continues, and you don't have to deal with the probate process. But if you have multiple properties, so I like to say that trusts don't avoid probate, they accelerate probate. Whereas essentially you're doing all the work while you're living instead of leaving it for your loved ones after your death. So you have your trust, and then you go through all of your properties, and then you deed them to the trust. You put them into the trust. So then upon death, everything's just distributed how it needs to be. Whereas if you just have a will, then your loved one's going to be doing distribution deeds for each of those properties, and
So while you're alive, we're seeing a lot of investors, they're not cash flowing right now. And so they're doing either 1031s or something to get a lot of movement, a lot of real estate movement. So if I sell 123 Main Street and I buy 456 Peach Street,
Okay.
do I need to call you every time I do a real estate transaction? Or because it's in an LLC and the LLC is a beneficiary of the trust or whatever you told me to do with the bucket, does it automatically update?
So it depends on, so if you are a member of an LLC or a trustee of a trust, you can purchase property as that entity as that,
Yes.
in that capacity, I should say. So instead of Sarah Lerner as an individual, you could purchase the property as Sarah Lerner, trustee of the Lernor Trust or whatever trust you have. So you don't have to come see me because you can purchase it as whatever entity you're doing it as, but if you purchase it as yourself, then you can come see me to put it into the trust. Yeah.
So the best thing to do is get all your buckets set up.
Yes.
And then you're good to go.
Get your bucket set up.
Okay.
And then I or an attorney can handle the property, real estate, whereas you typically, the client needs to handle their financial assets because they're the financial holders. They're the account holders. The bank's not going to talk to me about changing beneficiaries.
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't have to change, if you buy or sell assets, you don't have to change the trust. You just have to be sure that those assets are in the trust.
Okay. So not to put you on the spot, but kind of putting you on the spot.
Okay.
We love stories.
We love
stories. So
So do our viewers.
And if you need to think about it for a second, that's totally fine. But
Sorry.
we would love one story of how having the bucket or having wills or
think we're calling it
whatever
the
the
bucket
document.
now.
I know. I
think
feel like I
it's a
love the
trust,
analogy.
but a bucket. It
Love
makes
the
sense.
analogy of the bucket. How it benefited them to have all of that, and then maybe a story how it went awry because they didn't have the right plan in place.
And I'll give you more to think about.
Okay.
Because I see this in real estate is people come in and they're like, I use ChatGPT, so I am now an expert. Or I use LegalZoom, so I don't need a
ChatGPT.
I know. And I'm like, okay, what? Okay. Okay. So I know for us that creates, it doesn't always make it easy.
Right.
So what do you see in the legal world?
Regarding ChatGPT, so I can tell you ChatGPT is not always correct.
Right.
I had someone,
Gasp.
yeah,
I am shocked.
I had someone actually arguing with me over the phone about something, and they were like, "But ChatGPT says right here," and it was clearly wrong.
And you're like, did ChatGPT pass the bar?
Right, right.
sorry.
What did you like? Did you fact check them, or were you like, "This isn't even worth the energy"?
I don't.
Again, we love the story.
Yeah, no, it's
Tell us.
fine. This wasn't a client. This was a
You didn't.
this was a potential client.
Okay. One.
So that's probably the worst one I've had. But actually, there's a good use for ChatGPT.
Okay.
And let me tell you, I've had a couple of clients come in the last couple of weeks, and they have these printouts from ChatGPT, which basically the prompt is, I'm meeting with my estate planning attorney. What should we cover?
Oh, I like
What questions should I ask? And I think that's great. That's a great use for it.
Say the prompt again to the camera.
I'm meeting with my estate planning attorney. What questions should I ask?
Perfect.
Or what should I be sure they cover?
And what are some examples that it
So usually it spits out, you need to have the will and all the powers of attorney. And I mean, we cover that.
Marital status and
Yeah.
who you've been married to and who's.
It was interesting because I had someone come in last week and he had all these questions written out, and they were questions, boom, 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 and I could answer them. And I mean, there's stuff we would typically cover in a consultation anyway, but it kind of let him take the lead.
Sweet, I love that.
And ask the questions, and I could answer them for him. And so I thought that's a great use for ChatGPT when meeting with me. Please do not run your trust or your will through a ChatGPT.
Or any AI.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, there's
you
privacy
seen people
concerns.
I was like, tell us.
Have you seen people?
Clearly.
I've had people who I don't know for sure, but email responses that I've received to drafts. There are questions to ask
And then the
or
dashes and
or
then all
question
the-
or comments, and I'm like, you clearly got this from AI.
leave the prompt
This
at the
doesn't
bottom.
apply. This doesn't apply. This doesn't apply. This doesn't apply.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
just so.
I think that's hard because we are in an era of so much information. You almost feel irresponsible if you're not doing your own research. But at the same time, I'm not an expert in that. you
Yeah.
know, so I don't even know what questions I should be asking. Or like,
Right.
if you sent me
Exactly.
a will, I'd be like, I don't know. I
And
guess it looks
that's an issue I find with AI is bad prompts. Because if you don't know enough about the situation, you don't know what prompt to give to get an accurate answer.
Right.
So that's just one of many reasons. But there are good uses for it.
good. Yeah.
So no, I can think of someone recently. It was a married couple. And they had done their estate planning, and we did a trust for them. And one of the spouses had passed away. And then the surviving spouse was like, what do I do now? I'm like,
You got it all set up before.
nothing, you're
so
good.
You're good.
So you're good for now. Like after something happens to you, there will need to be some trust administration things to do with the new trustee and stuff. But it's
That has to be such a good feeling because when your spouse passes, I mean, your world is upside down.
Oh.
And to just know that, like, okay, at least
Yes.
that is good.
yes.
Is such
And
a
I've had it's heartbreaking. I've had a lot of widows in my office, and they look at me like deer in the headlights because their husband did everything. They don't know anything. They don't know where their money is. They don't know.
And they're still in the grieving process.
They
too.
are,
So
and that
you're
makes
trying
it
to
work. And so
grieve,
you're not
grieve,
thinking
but then
clearly.
right after somebody passes away, then you have
Yeah.
all of these things that you
So-
have to do.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about timing.
Okay.
Because that's the thing. People, like mom or dad will die on Monday. They'll call me on Tuesday or they'll
Because they
call me
need
on
something to
Wednesday.
do.
Yes. Now I understand that. That's great. But what I typically tell people is first, we can't do anything until we have a death certificate. Nothing can be done, which takes a couple of weeks. Yes. But also you have 4 years from the date of death to probate a will.
Okay.
You have time. I tell people when they call and it's new, you know, people who aren't crying on the phone because it's so fresh and
Just
new, they're still in
processing
shock.
Yeah.
What just happened?
Yes, they're like, mom died yesterday. What do I do?
Right.
I tell people, I'm like, let the dust settle,
Right.
get through the funeral, get through the memorial service, get through all of that. This is not, you don't have to deal with this right now. And we can't really just yet.
I think that shows your heart too. Like people need attorneys like you in their corner when they're going through things
Yeah.
like that.
It's
Because
hard.
most attorneys would be like, pay my consultation fee and let's get going. You know,
Yeah.
and instead you're like, let
Yeah.
the dust settle.
You can't
Yeah.
Come back to it.
effectively.
Yeah. And I mean, I have to remember that whenever I'm dealing with a situation, it's not just a name on a death certificate. Like this
Right.
is something that somebody loved, somebody
Right.
loved.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see the reactions to some people after a loved one dies. Everybody wants their money right now.
Right.
Mom died last week. Why don't I have my money? You see that. And then you also have, you know, people who are just so distraught they can't even.
Yeah.
So,
But it's a long list of to-dos.
but yeah, but there's not really a rush.
Okay. That's
know,
good
so-
advice.
In that regard, I think we talked about this last time, but I want to revisit it briefly. The transfer on death deed. So I know you file it ahead of time. It helps you not have to probate
Correct.
property. When someone dies, do you file the death certificate and like how does it kick in? How does
Right.
that-
That's a good question. So what you file is what's called an affidavit of death.
okay.
You don't want to file the death certificate because you don't want that. You record. That's the correct word I'm looking for is record. So you don't want to record the death certificate because it has social security numbers on it and personal information that you don't want
good
that
to
recorded.
know.
That's not
Yeah.
public. That's not public information. So you record what's called an affidavit of death, which is basically it's signed by somebody, usually the person who's receiving the property. That basically says this person passed away on this date, and it's information from the death certificate, file number this, issue date this, and then information about the transfer on death deed, and then you record that, and then that affects the change in title.
Who's eligible to fill that out? Like if
Literally
it's coming to
anyone.
me, I can sign Like,
Yeah.
I can fill it out and
there's no
then
like conflict
record
of
it.
interest because it's like, oh, you're okay.
No.
Because it's already been.
I mean, I haven't come across that issue
Okay,
before
that's
now.
good to know.
Okay.
So would
Yeah.
that be something a title company would help with? Or?
I don't think unless it's tied to a file that we
That
would
you
fill
would-
out and record.
Okay.
It's from my understanding we have to have things tied to a file,
file
to
number.
record anything, unfortunately.
Well, that makes sense.
But maybe if you
because
had the file there
where
at
you
some
could-
point,
you could open a file.
I mean, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I'm asking all sorts
No, no,
of
no.
stumpers today.
Numbers, that's hilarious. Okay, so speaking of, transferring of death deeds and big decisions, we're coming up on the end of the year. How does estate planning play into taxes for the year, and how can one plan? Like, does it go together, intertwine, or is it separate?
Not really, because the type of the type of estate planning that we do mostly is wills. Once you draft a will, you set it, forget it. It doesn't have anything. Okay. Now, a trust, revocable living trust, when we set up your trust, that trust is not a taxable entity in itself. So you don't have to report that. Anything, any income that's made on trust property, you report it on your own taxes.
Okay.
So I would tell your CPA that you have a trust.
Okay.
But it's not going to change your tax return for that year.
So just one advice is tell your CPA
Yeah.
that you have certain
please tell your
information,
CPA you have a trust. Yes.
and then they will guide you from there.
Yes.
As far as taxes go. Okay, so a couple questions to finish out. We get these questions all the time, so we're just going to read them and see how you would respond to them as an attorney.
Yeah,
Okay, you
I
want to
love
read
it.
them, or you want
No,
me
you
to?
go ahead, go ahead.
All right.
Do I really need a will if I don't have a lot of assets?
Yes. And this is why. Because even if you don't have anything at all, you may need to open an estate after your death. If you file an insurance claim, then you die, then the insurance company writes a check to your estate, you've got to open an estate account in order to deposit that check. If your estate is sued, you need to be able to open an estate. And so getting an estate open is easier with a will than without.
Gotcha.
So, for example, like if I passed away in a car accident and someone else was liable, and my estate was due proceeds,
Yes.
they would have. That would be an example of.
Yeah.
When, oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then not having that in place, the money would just.
So you would have to go through it. You would have to get an administrator of the estate named, but it's a much crazier process than when there's not a will.
And no one wants to be doing that.
No. I have never seen a situation where it's been beneficial that somebody did not have a will.
Wow.
Okay. So and you hit on this a little bit earlier, but I'm still going to ask it. If I'm married, doesn't everything just automatically go to my spouse?
It depends on the property. So if it's community property, yes. Well, no, I take that back. If it's community property, maybe. Because if you have kids from a previous marriage, then some of that interest goes to those kids and some goes to your spouse.
We have found many love children before.
Oh, yes.
They have a way of coming out when somebody dies.
They do.
So a lot of people make this assumption that I'm married, everything goes to them. But if it's separate property, nope. And then if it's community property, it depends. So also, even if, yes, everything is community property, both of your kids are from the marriage, everything goes to your spouse, the mechanism of actually getting it to that spouse, there's still forms that have to be filed in order to do that. So that's why I often do the transfer on death deed, because you don't want the surviving spouse having to deal with probate.
So I'm gonna go back to the transfer on death deed one more time because
She loves it.
like,
I really
love
do
it.
feel like the transfer on death deed
Solves a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like that's the one.
But disclaimer.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
No,
Like,
sorry.
it
I have to
just
say disclaimer.
seems
So it's not a
so-
one size fits all
And it-
situation.
Okay.
Would it be good for inherited property? And that's a whole other, right?
Well,
The
I mean,
step up in basis stuff.
Yeah, the step up in basis, it's maintained.
Okay.
But I just can't say that just because you have property, go record a Todd.
File a Todd.
No, because talk to your attorney, because there can be creditor issues. And stuff.
Okay.
Okay, that's good to know. I want to circle back on creditor
Okay.
issues, but also, can you file multiple? Because like should I have if we're married, and should my husband have a Todd and me?
And then what if something
So-
happens?
Because I don't know.
It depends on the nature of the property. Sometimes I'll do wife to husband and then another document, husband to wife. And sometimes I'll just do both spouses. And then it says upon our death, the survivor has the property or whatever.
okay.
And then you name another beneficiary after that if something happens to both of you.
Because you could, yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay, creditor.
Creditors.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So with a transfer on death deed, there is something that they are still subject to what's called a creditor clawback, which means that just because you give this property to somebody, they can still creditors can still reach that
Because
property.
it's not your personal homestead anymore. So a lot of those like creditor
It is your homestead.
things. Okay.
But
so
yeah.
Cause
Well,
like,
no, not
in
after you die. It's
yeah,
not.
like in
That- yeah.
normal life, like your home is usually protected against creditors. But after
Yes.
you die,
Yeah. So there's two types of deeds that sort of have the same result: the ladybird deed and the transfer on death deed.
those were separate. I thought
Yeah, they are not the same. They are not the same. They both avoid probate and give the property to somebody, but there are different legal. They're different legally, and so this was the thing that I was
remember.
fighting with somebody on ChatGPT about.
I was
tell
like, I
me.
feel like I remember years ago, I think it was you and we were figuring out some title stuff, and you're like, what about a ladybird deed? And I think it was you, and I'm like, we don't see a lot of ladybird deeds. We see the transfer on death deed.
Which is unusual because transfers on death deeds are pretty new.
Yeah.
Ish. I mean, they were statutory in 2015, I think. So title companies wouldn't accept them for a long time because they were new. But ladybird deeds have been around since the beginning of
What's
time.
the difference? In 30 seconds.
Okay.
You want the whiteboard now?
So the ladybird deed it's common law. It means it's been around,
Forever.
yeah, forever. Basically what you're doing is you're giving it's called an enhanced life estate deed. So you're giving your beneficiary the property, an interest in the property, but you're retaining for yourself what's called an enhanced life estate, which means you still have full control over the property, but the beneficiary has some interest in the property. So technically, they have some interest in the property. And upon your death, it automatically goes to them. The thing with ladybird deeds, you can't really name an alternate. They can be harder to revoke. Whereas transfer on death deed, nothing changes and it just immediately goes up. You're not changing the nature of your thing. So that's the best I can do in the 30 seconds.
No, that's great.
But also what's important is a transfer on death deed has to be recorded before death. Ladybird deed just has to be signed. It doesn't have to be recorded before death.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay,
We'll leave y'all with that. No.
we gotta wrap it up.
Sorry,
I have you back.
Yeah, we need to have you back
questions.
again. I know this was your second time on the podcast, but we're gonna need a third and a fourth and a fifth.
fine.
Thank you. So much information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's helpful.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
absolutely. So again, we want to thank Jennifer Morton with the Jennifer Morton Law Firm LLC. She is here in Pearland and willing to, take on new clients and have consultations. And she truly is the best of the best. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And again, any last words? Okay, speechless.
Just get your estate planning done, please.
Okay, cool. Well, this is Kayla Ewald, and I'm your co-host with Housing Houston.
And I'm Sarah Lernor with Real Best Property Management. We are saying goodbye, and we will see you next time.